Honorable members, let's pray. Almighty God, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor and blessings as your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to leadership positions in this republic. We seek guidance to treat and consider all matters that shall come under deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen. Good morning, honorable members, and welcome to our Tuesday, 1st August morning session. And clerk, let's proceed with the order of business.
Order number 1, administration of oath.
Next.
Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, I have one communication to make. This is from the office of the governor, the Department of Health Services. And there is a letter addressed to our clerk by the Honorable Brenda Bill B, CECM Health Services. This letter is this is request for informal consultative meeting on Mashujaa Day preparation. And I can read, this year's Mashujaa Day will be celebrated in Kericho as we prepare to host His Excellency the President, William Samoei Ruto. We are cognizant of this year's theme on universal health coverage. Various activities will happen in Kericho County with regard to this year's theme. It is on this basis that the Department of Health Services requests an informal consultative meeting with the County Assembly. We look forward to a positive response. Honorable members, I direct it to the chairperson in charge of Health Committee, Honorable Eric B. You pick up this matter. Of course, you arrange with the office of the clerk on how you will engage with the Department of Health Services. I want to believe that is quite in order. The Honorable Eric B. Thank you so much. Clerk, next order.
Order number 3, messages.
Next.
Order number 4, petitions.
Next.
Order number 5, papers.
Next.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Honorable members, we have one notice of motion by the Honorable Vincent Korir, MCA Londiani. Proceed to give notice of your motion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir, and members of the House. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to give notice of motion on the following motion. Aware that Friday, 30th June 2023 was a very dark day for our county.
Order, Honorable. Just give a notice and then give notice, and then, of course, we will dispense. I know the motion is a bit lengthy, so I expect that you give notice. I hope you won't read in everything, the Honorable member. Clerk, please guide accordingly so that he gives the Honorable Vincent Korir to give us that notice of motion. In summary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. I would like to give a notice of motion on the Londiani victim accidents. Thank you very much.
All right. Clerk, next order. Okay, order. Okay, fine. Proceed with giving notice of your motion in accordance with the standing orders.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, sir, aware that Friday 30th June 2023 was a very dark day for our county, as there was a grisly accident that occurred at Londiani Junction, which led to the death of 52 people, comprising of 31 males, 18 females, and 2 children. Further aware that there were also other several casualties who were taken to Londiani Sub-County Hospital, Kericho County Referral Hospital, and other health facilities at Nakuru County. Aware that following the grisly accident, the national government and the county government, being led by His Excellency the Deputy President, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, and held a fundraising for the victims of Londiani accident. Cognizant that the fundraising was held on 4th July 2023, and that it was a success as they were able to raise Kenya shillings 13.6 million to assist the victims of the said accident. Aware that the said funds were given to the county government to ensure that the said victims are compensated for their losses. Further aware that there was committee that was constituted and the meetings held to identify the beneficiary and determine the level of support to be given to the victims of Londiani accident. Concerned that Kericho County has been trending on various media platforms for the wrong reasons as a result of the alleged misappropriation of the said funds. Noting that it is the county assembly role to oversight the county executive and represent the people of Kericho County, including the affected families of Londiani accident, in ensuring proper utilization of funds raised. I urge this Honorable House to resolve that an ad hoc committee be established to look into the above mentioned matter, whose membership shall comprise of: number 1, Honorable Vincent Korir; number 2, Honorable Moses Rotich; number 3, Honorable Philip Rono; number 4, Honorable Eric B; Honorable Gilbert Ngetich; Honorable Matthew Korir; Honorable Cheriot Bet; Honorable Halbert Kipkoech; and Honorable Dora Keino. Number 2, the terms of reference of the committee in the report to this House upon investigation on the exact number of people who had passed on as a result of the Londiani accident and mock charges per deceased person. 2, the exact number of casualties as a result of the Londiani accident and the cost incurred per patient. The total amount of money raised at the fundraiser for the Londiani accident victims. The amount to be waived by the county government of Kericho for the health services rendered to the said victims, both casualties and deceased. Number 5, report on the breakdown of how the funds raised was distributed to the casualties and the families of the deceased, including their places of residence. Number 6, composition of committee, if any, formed for utilization and distribution of the said funds, and the terms of reference for the said committee. How many vehicles were used to support the victims, the departments they were drawn from, and the fuel used per vehicle. Number 8, what properties were destroyed during the incident, and how much was paid out from the funds as compensation. Number 9, and report on breakdown on utilization of the said funds for activities other than compensation of the casualties and families of the deceased. Number 3, the committee shall table the report of the said issues within 7 days from the date of passing this motion. Number 4, the rules and procedures of the committee as stipulated in the standing orders equally applies to the other committee. I ask Honorable. Thank you.
Order, Honorable Vincent. Clerk, next order.
Order number 7, statements.
Next order.
Order number 8, motion by Honorable Vincent Korir.
The Honorable Vincent Korir, now you can take the floor now, not necessarily now, of course, reading it, but you support the motion and then you are second, I will second you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. The motion that is before us, this House, is with regards to the accident that happened in Londiani. actually it's so sad, Mr. Speaker, when I remember what happened during that day when the accident happened at Lonjani Junction. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, we lost several people who we know in person, friends, and people who we know that they are hardworking. It's so sad that the people who we lost in our ward were people who are very hardworking, people who we know had the ability to help their families. We lost mothers, fathers who are being dependent upon. Mr. Speaker, we all came together as a county to actually sympathize with the families and even help them to be able to mourn and also bury their loved ones. Mr. Speaker, right now, in this week, we are in the media for the same reason that we are supposed to be healing and even having the people who lost their loved ones to recover and given get counseling on what happened. The scenery that was in our ward was so terrible. We don't want to remember about that. But the issue right now is before us is after that we went as a county to help contribute so that the families can be able to get money to bury their loved ones. Also, some of the members who lost their properties in the process. Some were injured, and some are still healing. Some are still in the hospital also. And the issue of fundraising has put the picture of this county in a very bad picture. And the issue of the money that we raised, the 13.6 million, is what we need to look at as a house, because we have the mandate of oversight. Mr. Speaker, sir, the 13.6 million is now in the media across the country for the allegation that it was misused. And that is why, as oversight, we do not allow anything, especially to do with robbing the dead. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move this motion so that we can be able to have the committee look at this issue that is before us and be able to address it conclusively. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Order, honorable members. Let us consult in low tones. Yes, proceed, the honorable.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I beg this House to work together so that we can be able to actually interrogate this issue, look at it in details, and if there is anyone who has touched whatever was contributed in this House should bear responsibility. And we will not allow such kind of the allegation that there was a fraud. This House, as oversight, we will never allow that. And we are going to look at it to the bottom of everything. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move the motion. Second, okay. Mr. Speaker, sir, let me read the motion. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to give to move the motion, aware that Friday, 30th June 2023 was a very dark day for our county, as there was a grisly.
Order, honorable members. The honorable Anthony Ruta, order, and the honorable Richard Lagat. Order. Please consult in low tones.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Aware that Friday, 30th June 2023 was a very dark day for our county, as there was a grisly accident that occurred at Londiani Junction, which led to the death of 52 people, comprising of 31 males, 18 females, and 2 children. Further aware that there were also several casualties who were taken to Londiani Sub-County Hospital, Kericho County Referral Hospital, and other health facilities at Nakuru County. Aware that following the grisly accident, the national government and the county government, being led by His Excellency, the Deputy President, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, held a fundraising for the victims of Londiani accident. Cognizant that the fundraiser was held on 4th July 2023 and that it was success as they were able to raise Kenya shillings 13.6 million to assist the victims of the said accident. Aware that the funds were given to the county government to ensure that the said victims are compensated for their loss. Further aware that there was a committee that was constituted to constitute and meetings held to identify the beneficiary and determine the level of support to be given to the victims of Londiani accident. Concerned that Kericho County has been trending on various media platforms for the wrong reasons as a result of the alleged misappropriation of the funds. Noting that it is the county assembly role to oversight the county executive and represent the people of Kericho County, including the affected families of Londiani accident, in ensuring proper utilization of the fundraise. I urge this Honorable House to resolve that an ad hoc committee to be established to look into the following mentioned matters, whose membership shall comprise of Honorable Vincent Korir, Honorable Moses Rotich, Honorable Philip Lono, Honorable Eric B., Honorable Gilban Ngetich, Honorable Matthew Korir, Honorable Cheriot Bet, Honorable Albert Kipkoech, Honorable Dora Keino. Number 2, the terms of reference of the committees to this report to this House upon investigation on the exact number of people who are passed on as a result of Londiani accident and mock charges per deceased person. The exact number of casualties as a result of Londiani accident and the cost incurred per patient. The total amount of money raised at the fundraiser for Londiani victims. The amount to be waived by the county government of Kericho for the health services rendered to the said victims, both casualties and deceased. Report on the breakdown of how much funds raised was distributed to the casualties and the families of the deceased, including their places of residence. Composition of the committee, if any, formed for utilization and distribution of the said funds, and terms of reference for the said committee. How many vehicles were used for the facilitation to support victims, the departments they were drawn from, and the fuel cost per vehicle. What properties were destroyed during the incident and how much was paid out from the fund compensation and report on the breakdown on utilization of the said funds for activities other than the compensation to the casualties and families. The committee shall table report of the said issues within 7 days from the date of passing this motion. The rules and procedure of the committees as stipulated in the standing orders equally applies to the other committee. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I beg Honorable Richard to support the motion. Second.
The Honorable Richard Nanga, please second the motion.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I rise to second the motion raised by Honorable Vincent Korir. And aware that the ward that was muchly affected is my ward, Kedoa Kimugul. Londiani Junction is within the Kedoa Kimugul ward. So, I have been following this matter after this accident, and then after the fundraiser, I have actually been following how this money has been, how this money should have been distributed to the victims, but there was a dark side of kind of distribution. So to me, it was unfortunate when we got this this bad news about the distribution of this money through social media. So I raised before I support the motion, there is one part, Mr. Speaker, sir, that I would like to be corrected. This part, Mr. Speaker, sir, is about the ad hoc committee. After seeing these names, Mr. Speaker, sir, I found that even though I come from the same ward, Mr. Speaker, sir, I am not in this ad hoc committee, Mr. Speaker, sir. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, sir, I can see some common names, Mr. Speaker, sir, who has been in nearly every ad hoc committee, Mr. Speaker, sir. So this time, Mr. Speaker, sir, I would like even other people, Mr. Speaker, sir, to come into this ad hoc committee, Mr. Speaker, sir, other than these common members, Mr. Speaker, sir. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, sir, I would like to know how this ad hoc committee, Mr. Speaker, sir, was.
Order, the Honorable Richard Lang. You are out of order. You are out of order. The Honorable Richard Langat, you were to second the motion. The Honorable Richard Langat, have you seconded the motion? Please second the motion and proceed. Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I second the motion, Mr. Speaker, sir. But
thank you,
with condition that, Mr. Speaker, that this committee be.
Order, Honorable Richard Langat.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I second the motion, Mr. Speaker, sir.
I will open the floor. Order. Please take your seat. Honorable
I second the motion.
Honorable members, let us stick to let us not divert to non-issues. Honorable members, please, you are discussing a very important matter, and as a seconder with the motion, your work is only to second the motion, and then any contribution will come when I open the floor for a debate. Honorable members, thank you very much, the Honorable Richard Langat. I now wish to propose a question that, of course, as proposed by the Honorable Vincent Korir, and the terms of reference of the report to be tabled to this House within 7 days from the date of passing this motion. I now open the floor for the Honorable members to make a contribution. The Honorable Leader of Majority.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, first, again, Mr. Speaker, and maybe before I support the motion, Mr. Speaker, you know, Mr. Speaker, I'm the leader of the majority party in the County Assembly, Mr. Speaker, and I have tried my level best, Mr. Speaker, to listen to members of the County Assembly, Mr. Speaker, in the very before we enter this House, Mr. Speaker. I know the motion delayed before it was circulated to the members, maybe because of the urgency of the same, Mr. Speaker. You know, we are trending in all social media platforms because of the same, Mr. Speaker, that these members were not even involved from the onset, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the motion is very good. A good number of members, Mr. Speaker, has raised the issues only, Mr. Speaker. I know it is something that should be deliberated in the House, Mr. Speaker, but with your guidance and a request, Mr. Speaker, they are raising several issues in relation to the composition of the ad hoc committee members, Mr. Speaker. I think that's the only issue that I have had, Mr. Speaker, and it will be upon these honorable members to decide on the issues touching on this motion, Mr. Speaker. But my firm request is that let these issues to do with composition, not to affect actually the full motion, Mr. Speaker, because I'm aware that the member of parliament representing Kipkelion East, Mr. Speaker, where the same accident occurred, Mr. Speaker, is in almost all radio stations, Mr. Speaker, pushing almost all the claims to the county government, Mr. Speaker, of which county government comprises of the county executive together with the county assembly, Mr. Speaker. So the content of the motion, Mr. Speaker, as said by the majority of these members before we entered into the chambers, Mr. Speaker, is, and we need to handle the same issues, Mr. Speaker, in the shortest time possible, Mr. Speaker. So I kindly request honorable members that even as we deliberate on this, even as we see maybe the names of those who have been proposed in the same motion to be in the other committee, Mr. Speaker, let the bigger picture of what has happened and what has engulfed the county of Kericho, Mr. Speaker, be of the priority, Mr. Speaker. These are the issues of who should sit in the same other committee, Mr. Speaker. We can discuss maybe in our Kamugunchi, if we can say, Mr. Speaker, maybe we postpone this shortly, we go, we come, because the content, what I'm interested, Mr. Speaker, is the content of the motion, not even the names and the image of the county government together with the county assembly, Mr. Speaker. I know even the MCA representing that area, Mr. Speaker, was not involved in the whole things, Mr. Speaker, that happened. Until when things go south, Mr. Speaker, is when they want to engage the area MCA and the MCAs representing that sub-county, Mr. Speaker. So I kindly request, through your guidance, Mr. Speaker, that maybe after deliberation by honorable members, we will see if these issues of names forwarded to sit in that other committee will bring the issues, Mr. Speaker. Maybe we will adjourn shortly, we go out, then we come in with the names, Mr. Speaker, then we move on with the motion. But it is through your guidance, Mr. Speaker. Otherwise, I support the motion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, the Honorable Majority Leader. Just let me say something in regards to the ad hoc committee. Our honorable members, of course, as you are aware, this is something that has attracted, of course, national interests, as the majority leader has, of course, confirmed, and also as you are aware about it. Honorable members, it is the view of the chair that the composition of the ad hoc committee really does not matter, because at the end of the day, the report shall be tabled in this house. And in any case, honorable members, all members, remember that we have 7 days to work on this report. In fact, if it was possible to include everyone, and this is the discussion that we have had, that all honorable members, of course, shall have a session together with that ad hoc committee and to give their views. So it should really not bother you so much on the composition of this ad hoc committee. But remember, and I put it, anything, of course, a report that will be done by this ad hoc committee shall be tabled in this house, and members, of course, will have a final say of the report, as you are aware. So I request that I direct that let's discuss on the content of the matter, of the motion, and then we proceed. But members, please stick to that and content of the motion. The Honorable Anthony Ruto.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity so that I may also contribute on this very important issue in our county. This is an issue, Mr. Speaker, sir, that touches on people that lost their lives. It touches also on people that were injured during the Londiani accident. The issue here is about money. Money was collected specifically to assist the affected families in terms of funerals and also for those ones who are injured. The issue before us as an assembly
Just proceed, the Honorable.
is to find out whether the money was prudently used. As an assembly, because all these things now are in public domain. As an assembly, we have to come out also as an oversight house to find out if the money was given to the targeted group. I want to appreciate MCA Londiani for coming up with this motion. And I want to agree, Mr. Speaker, sir, that we should also take the lead to find out whether this money was prudently used. However, I have pertinent issues as far as the content of this motion is concerned. Many things here are very obvious. They don't need rocket science for one to know these things. Meaning that there's no need of having an ad hoc committee. For example, number one, the exact number of people who had passed. Who doesn't know that 52 people passed on? Who doesn't know that? Number two, the number of casualties. Who doesn't know that? This number of people were injured. Number three, total amount of money raised at the fundraiser for the Londiani accident. Who doesn't know that? 13.6 million was collected. Number four, the amount of money to be waived by the county government of Kericho for the health services rendered to the said victims, both casualties and deceased. Waiving is not a big issue. It was categorically stated by our beloved governor that bills in Londiani and Kericho and wherever will be waived.
Yes, order.
As an house,
Order, Honorable.
we should sit
Order, Honorable Anthony Ruto. Order, Honorable.
Thank
Yes. The Honorable Kiprotich Rogon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, order members. I know this is a very emotive.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, order.
The motion before us is a critical motion. The motion before this assembly actually comes at a time when the issues currently in the public domain should be addressed. Mr. Speaker, the member is even trying to amend the motion. And as we said before, this is a very important motion. Are we trying to kill this motion before even we debate the motion? Mr. Speaker, I want you to guide this member, because if he is proposing an amendment of this motion, then there is an avenue of doing that. Mr. Speaker, we do not need to kill this important motion over an ad hoc committee. And to me, there is no problem. So I want to ask the member, Mr. Speaker, is he trying to amend the motion? Because he's already puncturing the motion. That is so critical. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, the Honorable Dr. Moses.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to seek your guidance, Mr. Speaker, as regard to Honorable Anthony Ruto's comments. Anthony Ruto is giving us a direction that maybe, Mr. Speaker, we would not want to go. Telling us, Mr. Speaker, that 13.7 million was collected. Where did he get the information from? Now that we are having another committee, Mr. Speaker, we will convert the Honorable Anthony Ruto as a witness of collection of funds, Mr. Speaker. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, when he says, Mr. Speaker, that the number of victims, Mr. Speaker, until yesterday, Mr. Speaker, I have someone who is in hospital, Mr. Speaker. I paid a bill of up to 20,000, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Dr. Moses, you are on a point of order. I know that will form part of your contribution.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
Let me give to the leader of the majority first, and then before we proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I know Honorable Anthony Ruto, Mr. Speaker, who is also my neighbor back at home, Mr. Speaker, was still on the floor, Mr. Speaker. But through your guidance, Mr. Speaker, I kindly request to move another motion, Mr. Speaker, to suspend this motion for 15 minutes, Mr. Speaker. We go deliberate on small issues, Mr. Speaker. Then we come in, Mr. Speaker, and proceed with the same motion, Mr. Speaker. And I like Honorable, the Deputy Speaker, Mr. Speaker, to second the motion, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, thank you very much, the Honorable Majority. The Honorable Deputy Speaker. And then you clarify the Honorable Majority, adjourn on suspension. All right, proceed, Your Honorable.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I second the motion of suspend for 15 minutes so that we can address issues with the honorable members. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Deputy Speaker. The honorable members, as of course, before I put the question, as of course, reading the mood of the House is that you need to have your own consultation. I'll request that you will consult here. I now rise to put the question that this House suspends this sitting for 15 minutes. Will as many of the same opinion say aye? Will as many of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.